Last night you dreamed. You probably don't remember it. Maybe a fragment, a face, a room, a feeling that faded the second you opened your eyes, but it happened. Your brain spent hours constructing an entire world populated with people and places and emotions, and then quietly erased almost all of it before you even had a chance to know it was there. Scientists call this dream amnesia. And the numbers are staggering. Within 5 minutes of waking, half of your dream is already gone. Within 10 minutes, 95% has vanished completely, not faded, gone, as if it never happened. But here's the thing. Researchers have spent decades studying what people dream about before they forget. And what they found tells us something deeply strange about who we are, what we fear, and what our minds are doing while we sleep. So yes, you've already forgotten most of it. But we know what was in there. Let's start with why you forget in the first place, because the reason is weirder than most people expect. When you're awake, your brain produces a chemical called norepinephrine. It's involved in attention, alertness, memory formation, basically the whole system that lets you record and store what's happening around you. During REM sleep, the stage where most dreaming occurs, norepinephrine levels drop to almost zero, not low. Almost zero. Without it, the parts of your brain responsible for converting experience into memory basically go offline. You're having experiences, vivid ones, but the recording mechanism isn't running. It's like watching a movie with no way to save it. What's strange is that this doesn't seem to be an accident. Some researchers believe the brain deliberately suppresses memory consolidation during dreams, possibly to prevent the emotional intensity of dream experiences from overriding real memories. Your brain is protecting you from your own sleep. Now here's where it gets interesting. Because even though you forget your dreams, your brain doesn't dream randomly. The content follows patterns, consistent, cross-cultural, scientifically documented patterns that show up in people across every country, every language, every background. The most common dream in the world is falling. Not falling from somewhere specific, just falling with that sudden jolt that snaps you awake. Researchers believe this is tied to the hypnic jerk, an involuntary muscle twitch that happens as your body transitions into sleep, which your dreaming brain interprets as a physical fall and responds to with panic. The second most common is being chased. The pursuer changes, sometimes a person, sometimes an animal, sometimes something shapeless, but the feeling is always the same. Pure, unfiltered threat. Studies consistently link chase dreams to avoidance in waking life. Whatever you're running from in the dream, you're probably avoiding something similar when you're awake. Flying dreams come third. And unlike falling or being chased, flying dreams are almost universally positive. People who experience them regularly describe a feeling of complete freedom, control, elevation, escape. Psychologists link them to moments of high confidence or major positive change in a person's life. Then there are the ones that feel almost universal, the situations so many people dream about that they've become cultural shorthand. Showing up to an exam you didn't study for. Standing in front of a crowd and realizing you're not wearing clothes. Losing your teeth, they crumble, they fall out, they dissolve in your mouth while you stand there in horror. These aren't random. Tooth loss dreams are one of the most studied in sleep research, and they consistently correlate with anxiety, stress, and feelings of powerlessness. Your brain encodes pressure as physical decay. The exam dream shows up most often in people who have been out of school for years, sometimes decades. The brain reaches for the most intense period of performance pressure it can find, and for most people, that's still school. It doesn't matter that you haven't sat an exam in 20 years. The filing system doesn't update. But the dreams that tell us the most about who we actually are, those involve the people in our lives. Dreams about ex-partners are among the most common reported worldwide, and they make people deeply uncomfortable. Waking up from a dream about someone you haven't thought about in years feels like a betrayal of your present life. But researchers say it isn't. Dreaming about an ex rarely signals lingering romantic feeling. More often it signals unresolved emotional processing. Something about that relationship, that period of your life, that version of yourself is still being worked through somewhere beneath the surface. Dreams about people who have died are different. They feel more real than ordinary dreams, more vivid, more present. And for many people, they feel like genuine contact rather than just memory. Neuroscience can't fully explain why grief dreams have this quality, but what's consistent is that they tend to occur more frequently in the period immediately after a loss, and they tend to shift over time from distressing to comforting as the grieving process progresses. The brain seems to be doing something intentional with absence. In 2013, a team of researchers at Kyoto University did something that nobody had managed to do before. They used fMRI brain scanning to decode the visual content of dreams in real time. Not perfectly, not in full detail, but well enough to identify basic shapes and objects while a person was still asleep. Participants were woken up over 300 times across multiple sessions. Each time they described what they had just been dreaming. The researchers matched those descriptions to brain activity patterns. Then they built a model and used it to predict dream content from brain scans alone, with an accuracy of 60%. For the first time in history, a dream had been partially read from the outside. What appeared most often in those scans was striking in its ordinariness. Not monsters, not landscapes, not abstract visions. The most frequent visual content with everyday objects and scenes, streets, rooms, people, furniture. The dreaming brain, it turns out, is largely replaying the world as you know it. The strange parts are the exceptions. The familiar is the rule. So, if dreams are this rich, this consistent, this meaningful, why do we lose almost all of them? And more importantly, can we change that? The most effective technique researchers have found is also the simplest. Keep a dream journal next to your bed and write in it the moment you wake up. Not after coffee, not after checking your phone, the moment you open your eyes, because that 10-minute window is everything. Once it closes, the dream is gone. What happens over weeks of journaling is remarkable. The amount people remember increases significantly, not because they're sleeping differently, but because the act of recording trains the brain to pay attention during the transition out of sleep. You're essentially teaching your recall mechanism to stay active a little longer. Setting an alarm 15 to 20 minutes earlier than usual also helps. Most vivid dreaming happens in the final REM cycle of the night, the one closest to waking. Cutting that cycle short and lying still in a half-awake state between sleep and consciousness gives you a window to capture what's there before it disappears. Some people take this further. They learn to become conscious inside their dreams, aware that they're dreaming while the dream is still happening. This is called lucid dreaming, and it's far more common than most people realize. Studies suggest that roughly 55% of people have experienced at least one lucid dream in their lifetime. About 20% experience them regularly. In a lucid dream, the dreamer can sometimes influence what happens, change the direction of the narrative, confront something they've been avoiding, explore a situation they wouldn't face while awake. Therapists have begun using lucid dreaming techniques in the treatment of recurring nightmares, particularly in people with PTSD. Instead of being trapped in the nightmare, the patient learns to recognize it while it's happening and change it. The brain, it turns out, doesn't entirely lose its capacity for self-awareness even in sleep. Under the right conditions, something in there knows it's dreaming, and it can act on that knowledge. Here's what I keep thinking about. Every night, your brain builds something, a world, a story, a version of your life that only exists in the dark. It populates that world with people who matter to you and some who used to. It runs through your fears, your desires, your unresolved questions. It processes grief, rehearses threats, replaces failures, invents escapes. Then, almost every single time, it destroys it before you can hold it, before you can examine it, before you even know it was there. 95% of your inner life gone every morning before breakfast. What would you find if you could keep it? Maybe start writing it down tonight. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person this channel is made for. Like the video and subscribe so you don't miss the next one.